All right. We are live once again. And we'll go live here on Amazon. So today's project is to test out these new adapters from GoCoax. And these are, I'll take one out of the box here so you can see what it looks like. These are MoCA 2.5 adapters. So they will do, 2.5 gigabits per second. But remember, the ones that we looked at before only had a gigabit Ethernet on the other end. These have 2 gig Ethernet. So you should be able to get the full performance out of these suckers. So what we're going to do is set up a little MoCA network. And how we're going to do that is we're going to connect one to my network at 2.5 gigabits per second, right? We're going to hook up the coax cable here to the other one, to this end, and then connect it to the other one that I have, and then connect my laptop to it at 2.5 gigabits per second. So I've got a special 2.5 gig Ethernet adapter here that will be part of this experiment today. So that's how we're going to run it. And we're going to run it through 100 feet of cable to see, how it will do it at a little greater distance than what we've typically tested things at. So you don't need this if you don't have a need for multi-gigabit. So that's kind of the over-under on this, because these cost a lot more than their other ones. So they have a MoCA 2.5 adapter with gigabit, which is, so this is $75. The other one's $60. So this is about $15 more. And you probably don't need this. So if you have 2.5 gigabit Ethernet, go for it. Otherwise, I think the other ones are still more than adequate. So we got this. And by the way, they sent this to the channel free of charge. But we'll be hanging on to these because we do a lot of this MoCA content from time to time. You get a Cat5e cable, patch cable in the box. That's okay, because 2.5 gigabit works fine over Cat5e. And that's it. And you get a little instruction book here. So I'll give you the overhead view. So let's see what this says. So faster than ever. And so you get the 2.5 gig on the port there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the security just to see right out of the gate what we get for speed. And we should get the full 2 gigs, because when we tested this MoCA 2.5 before, I'm just going to adjust my camera brightness here a little bit. When we tested the MoCA 2.5 before, we were able to demonstrate that we could push 2 gigs through the coax network, no problem. So I'm not too worried about performance, because we've seen this perform really well before. So there you go. All right, so let me get in some hellos here, and then we will go from there. So Dava is here. Say hello to Dava, everybody. Let me get my thing going here. Gosh, everything's all messed up today. What is up with this? Hang on a second, folks. I'm having some technical difficulties. My screen is not resizing properly. Usually do it like this, and then I can scroll. There we go. Okay. There we go. So Dava says hi. And Connor is here. Our usual crowd, they're right in here, right when we go. So Joe is here. Romeric is here. Frank Mula is here. And who else we got? Yeah, I am starting early today because I wanted to shoot this video. I'm having some networking trouble here at the house. So hey, Bita Balba is here too. So my challenge today with my network is that my Unify access point is messed up once again. I'm going to probably do a video on some of the things I've been experiencing long-term on it. So it's working in the sense that the network is functional. I can send you traffic and back and forth, no problem. But I can't log into the device at all. Like, it's not letting me into its control panel. So the onboard controller is totally zonked, and there's no way to get into it. Like, it is totally like locking me out. So my settings are still intact, But I've got to, now for the second time in 6 months, I've got to reconfigure the entire thing, which is likely the outcome here. So I am not pleased with this, and I think it's probably going to be something I'm going to talk about, because I'm not the only one having these kinds of issues. So it's just aggravating to have this happen twice now, where I have to like rebuild the whole network. So I have not been pleased with that. William Wilkinson is here. Hello. And Victor says he's researching these. Yeah, these are good. I found the, like I said, if you don't need the 2.5 gigabit Ethernet, the lower priced ones are fine. Because they will, the backbone is 2.5 gigs. So if you are transiting data between two of these devices, you still have another 2 gigs left on the wire. So that works pretty good. You have a good day too, Connor. And I've got somebody who can edit videos for me now, Dava, but you never know. So I will let you know if I ever need help. But right now I've got Jake who helps me out with that. And Connor's been busy. That's okay. I get busy too. George says, I didn't realize 2.5 would work on. Yeah, in fact, 10 works on 5E also if you're not that long of a distance. So my upstairs gaming room, essentially, my backbone down here to the basement, because it's probably maybe 20 feet of cable between upstairs and downstairs, not even. So I'm running 10 gig over 5E, and it's been fine. I haven't had any problems with it. You don't want to go much further than 20 feet at 10. But 2.5 is going to work fine with Cat 5e. And I think that's kind of the allure of it, because you can double your speed without having to rewire. So I'm not concerned that they're not packing in a Cat 6 cable. TJ says, if you test a Cat 5e and then a Cat 6, you will see a big difference. Yeah, so it depends on the length, I think. But I'll tell you what, like, maybe it's just the 5e cable that my electrician installed. It's been fine. So I have my Mac on the desk over there. It's connected at 2.5 back to the room here, no problem. We're actually going to be testing against that in a little bit. And then my upstairs room again is 5e 10 gig. But again, I'm only connecting about 15, 20 feet. And then out of that connection, so I bring it up to a switch up there. And then from that switch, everything is hooked up Cat 6, because I have a couple of long runs. So that's how I did that. All right, let's unbox the other one here and see what we got. Same thing, obviously. So again, the big difference with this one versus the other one is that these are still MoCA 2.5, just like the other ones. But you can make use of the full 2.5 out the Ethernet on each adapter, provided you have a multi-gigabit switch. And if you don't have that multi-gigabit switch, then you're out of luck. So these will they'll run at gigabit, but obviously you're paying more for nothing if you're not going to use 2.5 to interconnect everything. So just bear all of that out. Okay, so now I need to clear some room on my power strip here. So we got 2 outlets available to me. And I'm going to put these next to each other, but we're going to run 100 feet of cable in between them. So this will, I think, be a good test. And we're just going to run 2 quick tests on it. This won't be actually too long of a process, because I'm trying to not repeat myself too often in videos, because we spent a lot of time on MoCA and how it works. So when I shoot the video, this may be a quicker one. So we'll see what we get here. All right, so we're going to plug these in. And I'm actually not going to turn them on until we get power to them. Now, there's no power switch on these either. They're always on. And the power adapter, I think it's about 5 or 10 watts. Let's see. This is a 12 volts, 0.5 amps. So what is that in 12 volts, 0.5 amps in watts? Let's see what that is. That is, let's take a quick look at this. 12 volts, 0.5 amps. That is about 6 watts. So these consume, each of these is about 5 or 6 watts. They consume about what you would expect out of USB. Now this is the tricky part because this cable is like nicely coiled up. And you know what's going to happen once I start doing this. So I'm going to attach one end here, and I'm just going to run this cable around my room so that, because you don't want to have the cable, you know, you run into trouble when the cable's coiled in on itself, right? You get some interference perhaps. So just to keep it really a good test, I'm just going to take this cable and just run this around my room real quick here and see what we get. It smells like PVC. We used to, in my old family business, we used to sell these PVC gloves. This smells like those PVC gloves. So we'll just toss that down there. Let that roll out a little bit. So I'm going to like kind of run this around. I'm going to run this around and come back. So just give me 1 second here to get that cable spun out a little bit, because we're going to push the signal through 100 feet of coax. Now, if you don't know what this MoCA stuff is, as I chat here, MoCA is allowing you to use your cable, your satellite or cable system wiring, your coax wiring, as a network extender. So what this is good for, obviously, is that if you've got cable TV jacks all over your house, you can turn them into what I call almost as good as Ethernet connections. They're not quite as good because I don't believe MoCA is symmetrical. I think it can do a max of 2 gigs total, or 2.5 gigs. But the latency is super low, and you're not sharing it. So you're not sharing like radio waves, right? There's more bandwidth in this cable than you would have over a Wi-Fi connection. And we've done a lot of testing on this. So, you know, what we found is that it behaves a lot more like Ethernet. And you've got far more bandwidth, really low latency, like almost Ethernet level latency. And it really performs almost as good as Ethernet. So if you don't want to rewire your whole house and you've got cable jacks everywhere, it's worth looking at. All right, so now let me adjust the brightness. My cameras hate white plastic. They have like a really lousy dynamic range. So now what we're going to do is we got these two things connected. I'm going to power both of them on and get them talking to each other. And they obviously move around a lot with this cable here. And let me take some chats here as we're going. So George says, now that I hear you say 10 gigabit works short distance on 5E, I really wonder if there's some quality difference in cables like... Yeah, there is definitely, there's a different standard that they're made to. So the Cat 6A cables are much better. Like if you were to do like a real stress test, like somebody was talking about there a second ago, like I have no doubt that you will see far better or far lower interference, because it's all about interference. You'll see far lower interference on a 6 cable versus a 5E. They're just made to very different standards, and that's why there's a price differential. But for me, what I said is, well, let me see if it'll work, and then I'll decide to go a different route if needed. Okay, so now, I think I can do this on the overhead here. It's gonna be very challenging dealing with this. It's like they're like spring loaded with this cable here. Now what should happen here after they boot up is you will see them light up and begin communicating. So let's see. So right now they have power, and what will happen here eventually is the MoCA light will start blinking right here. And I'll show you this view. Let's take that one, looks a little better. So what will happen here is that this one is going to start, or one of them, both of them maybe, will start blinking and communicating through the cable. And while that's going, what I will do is plug in, where did my cable go? I've got a couple of things that we're going to test speed-wise on this when we get moving here. Okay, here it is. So this cable goes to my router. So this is going to provide 2.5 gigs of bandwidth to this. So our backbone is 2.5 gigabits through the Ethernet and through the coax. Okay, so now you see that we've got a MoCA light here. So these two have found each other. And this is the beauty of this MoCA technology, is that they just find each other. I mean, if you don't do anything else. You just plug them in, and if they're on the same loop, they just work. Now, I think if I recall correctly, I can hold down this MPS button, and I can push this one here, and that will establish a secure connection between them. Because part of what I want to do here is have these two devices communicate securely, because ultimately, if we get full speed on these when they're securely connected, we'll have a good sense as how they'll work when they're not secured. And the reason why you want security is because MoCA can leak a little bit. So if you don't have a filter on your at your entry to the premises, you sometimes run into issues with I think I have to hold both of these buttons down. I'm trying to remember how to do this. You could have some leakage. So when you activate the encryption, they basically pair with each other, and then any other device you bring on the network. And I think I have to reread my instruction book here. Scott says, I have a dish hopper set up. Yeah, so a lot of the carriers use this. In fact, this technology was pretty much put into place by the carriers. Okay, so I'm going to hold down, and he's getting. Oh yeah, so no, so these should work. If you have existing MoCA, these will detect any other MoCA devices on the network. I think you can have a maximum of 16, and what it will do is it will communicate with those at their lower speed. Those are likely MoCA like 1.0 devices or 2.0 devices. All right, so I'm going to hold this down. There we go. So now it's blinking, and then I'm going to hold this down. Let's see. I'm just trying to get this security thing working here. If not, I have to log into its control panel to get that going. And I'm waiting for the security light to light up blue. Maybe not. Let's see. I'm trying to remember how I did it the last time. I haven't looked at these in a while, so let's see. So Scott's using 2.0 in the Hopper 3. Yeah, so what you'll see, and we'll pop into this in a minute, is you will see that these have a little web control panel that you can log into. And gosh, they really made these instructions very minimal. So I guess they're just looking for like, make it super simple. So when you're in there, it'll tell you how they're communicating. All right, so give it a second here. So I'm going to go jump into my web browser and just go to their website real quick. And let's just get the instructions. I just want to see how to use the security button here. Data sheet, quick start guide. Let's see if this will help us here. Log into the management hub. Okay, so it's funny, the old one has better instructions than the new one does. So let me just take a look at this real quick, because I'm guessing it works the same as the other one did. All right, so we have to change. So you know what I'm going to do here? I'm going to plug in my adapter here, and we're going to pop into that other one. And so I've got like this pluggable USB adapter that we're going to use to attach to this. Enable encryption. Only power on the first device. Okay, go to security settings, enable D. Okay, so this is right. Okay, then you push the button. Okay. So we're going to have to log into one of these. So what we're going to do, just to get this security set up, is we're going to turn this one off for a minute by unplugging it. Now this one's still on, and I'm going to log into its control panel. And I will show you what that control panel looks like here in a minute. All right, so let me grab this IP address. Yeah, so I think I might point people at my original review of the original GoCoax devices, because these seem to really work very much the same way. Okay, give me 1 second here, folks. It's got to configure my network here. Okay, so now, and I'll show you what this looks like here. So we have to go to .10. Hopefully it'll give me something here. It doesn't look like it's connecting though. Huh. Yeah, because the instructions are really lacking here. I may have to give them a call. I was hoping to get into this today, but it looks like this is all you get. And I know these are brand new, but what they're kind of directing you to do is just plug them in and go to town. But I know people are going to be asking about how to get some of the other features enabled. So hang on a second here. I think I have to just figure out something real quick. Let's see, quick start guide 192.168.254.10. There it goes. Okay. So it's actually 254. So let's try that real quick. And then it's going to be all right, so let me give you my screen so you can see what we're looking at. And we're going to go up to display 1. Okay. So here is the settings. And we're not touching any of this stuff here. But what we're looking for, and I'll show you some other things in here too. Is I think what we're going to do is we're going to enable D high. On device security settings, enable a DX band and select the proper password. Okay, so DX, oh, it's not even in there. Huh. Bear with me here, folks. I'm just trying to figure out, because this looks different than the other one that I had before. Now, if you're curious, when you get one of these things, they have a really helpful screen here, which will give you kind of a breakdown of the connection rates. So right now, there's nothing else on our network. So we'll pop back into this screen in a few minutes, because when we connect additional MoCA devices, you'll see, and what you can see here is that it indicates what level of MoCA that device is. So when this is more fleshed out, if you've got a MoCA 2.5 on the network, it'll communicate at 2.5 gigabits with that one. But if you have a MoCA 1 device, it'll communicate at the 100 megabits per second speed. So you have some flexibility there. All right, so I'm going to go back to the security settings here. I'm just going to enable, yes, we're going to have to cover this in the review. So we're going to enable, oh, here it is, a DX band. So we're just going to enable that. Now they want you to put in a separate password here, but I'm just going to enable it, and we'll do a proper password when we actually turn it on. So I'm going to enable that and click Save, and I'm guessing I have to reboot it now. So let's reboot, and let's see if it hangs on to that that thing there. And while we're doing that, I will take some more questions. here's the question. So there are two versions of this. So if you click on my Amazon link, you'll be taken to this stream live on Amazon. These are the more expensive ones. So we looked at the lower cost ones recently. These are $75, and the reason why they're $75 is because they have 2.5 gigabit Ethernet on them. So the coax network is 2.5, and then you can get the full 2.5 out the Ethernet in either direction. It's not, however, it is not symmetrical, so it's 2.5 total. And then it manages the transmission and receive rates. And then the lower cost ones, which cost $60, good value actually, those are running with the 2.5 gig on the coax, but 1 gig on the Ethernet. And you can mix and match them. So if you have a 2.5 gig computer on your network, you buy 2 of these, you plug one into your router at 2.5 gigabits, and then all the others will obviously use whatever speed they have. And if you plug this one in, the second one, with 2.5 on your computer, you're good to go. And I'm just checking to make sure that my security settings are enabled here. So let's take a look and see if it took. And I think it did. Yeah, okay, good. So now we've got that security enabled there. Okay, so now what we're going to do next is I'm just following the directions here. We are going to, and I might want to record this. Okay, so we turn that on. After the device boots up about 10 seconds, the MoCA light will turn blue. Power on the second device. Okay, so now we're going to power on the second device and press the MPS button on both devices. Okay, so now let's take it from this angle here. And you get to have like 3 hands for this. Okay, so we did that. After the device boot up about 10 seconds, the MoCA LED will be blue solid. All right, so now press the MPS button on the 2 devices. Wait for the MoCA LED to turn green blue. Okay, so we're going to hold down this button and this button. Let me take a recording here. If I can get as much footage as I can shot now, it'll cut down my production time later. So that's kind of what I'm working on here. So we'll save this. Okay. All right, so now okay, so after the boot up, about 10 seconds, we'll power on the second device. Oh, I see. So after it powers on. So we're going to plug it in, wait for it to boot up. MPS button on the 2 devices. Wait for the MoCA LED to turn green blue. Okay. So wait for this to boot up here, and then we're going to hit the button. And hopefully they will find each other. Now we did get a successful MoCA connection before, so we know that they're communicating with each other. Okay, so now we've got MoCA. And so now the security light is lit up. So before this, the light used to be blue, and now it just lights up a separate security light. Okay. So now we have an active connection here between these 2. So the next step for me is we're going to set this USB adapter to DHCP. And what should happen now is I should get, yep, got it. I got an address on my local network. I'm going to turn off my Wi-Fi. And I am also going, just to, as a good measure here, disconnect. You know what I've got to do here? I've got to disable my, oh, this is going to be complicated. All right, so we got to do one minor thing here. I've got to run my video through something else here because I don't want to send my video over the coax network and interfere with the bandwidth. So we're going to plug my laptop into one of my NDI boxes here. And those work over the network, but they're on a different segment on the switch. So we shouldn't have too many problems there. So I'm thinking here, The other thing I'm going to do, this is a safety measure, is disconnect my Thunderbolt dock that we're plugged into. That way we can ensure that this network adapter is transmitting all of the stuff. Okay, so now that is powered on. And give me 1 second here, folks, and we will finish up getting these things interconnected. And we'll go from there. But the good news is now they are connected to each other and secure. Mark Smith wants to know, do they make a 10 gig version? They do not. So 2.5 right now is the fastest. And I think that's partly why you see some of this 2.5 network switching equipment out there. So that's where we're at. Okay, VPNs are not off topic right now. I'm just trying to focus on getting some of this testing done because I'm trying to shoot these things today. I've been struggling with my router today, and I'm kind of behind on schedule. But I think VPNs are fine. I just don't think they're the security panacea that people think they are, because you're still traceable. You know, they're really, I think they're best for when you're at a coffee shop or some network that you don't trust. Okay, so now we are connected, and I just need to get my video up because I want to be able to capture, here we go, the video output. All right, so I just need to figure out why we're not getting video out of my dock here. And nada. So we're going to recycle power to the dock here on my desk. And we'll get that going, and then we'll be able to see the screen. At least that's the, there it goes. Okay. All right. So now, first thing we're going to do is we're going to do our usual Wi-Fi perf test, and we're going to connect to my iMac on the other side of the room, and we'll see if we can transit 2.5 gigs from device to device over 100 feet of coax cable. So what I'm going to do here is just go and make sure I got the right address for that Mac. I think it's .36. Yes, 2.36. Pamela Spillman, thank you for the follow on Amazon, by the way. All right, so now, and I'm going to show you the screen here in a second. So we're going to now push some data from the Mac here on the desk. We're going to send data through this Ethernet cable, okay? The data is going to travel through this Ethernet cable at 2.5 gigabits per second, hopefully, to this adapter. The data will then go through this coax cable. It's 100 feet long. It goes basically down that way and comes back. The data will feed back into this coax adapter, and then it's going to take that data and push it out over Ethernet into my multi-gigabit network. And then it will reach the iMac on the other side of the room. So that's the flow of data. And now we're going to run our first iPerf test and see if we get the speeds we are anticipating. And it looks like the Mac put itself to sleep. I think that's what's happening here. Yeah, so hang on. Can't connect. The host is down. Okay, hang on a second. Let me go check that computer real quick. Yep, it fell asleep. This is what happens when you try to save energy, right? Everything falls asleep. Okay, so, oops. All right, so I'm going to make it so it doesn't sleep as easily as it just did. So we're going to have it go to sleep after 45 minutes or so. Okay. All right, so now, take two. Here we go. Ready? Okay, so we're going to run the test. And now it's running. And then what we want to look for is this bandwidth thing here. So that's not good. We should be getting more than that. So this is where the troubleshooting begins. And let me take a look and see what we've got going on here. Because this should, again, be at least running at gigabit, if not faster, because it's like 194 megabits per second. Now on Amazon, Adam J. Green wants to know, why not just use Ethernet? Well, the reason is that a lot of people maybe have plaster walls, or they don't want to go through the expense of wiring up Ethernet. So there is a real argument to be made about MoCA. And I found these things to be better than using Wi-Fi for that purpose. So for example, in my house, I just don't want to go through the cost of like wiring up some of the extra bedrooms that are only occasionally used, for example. So these can be a good solution for that. And these are more expensive, but you can buy, $60 gigabit versions and get a good alternative to Ethernet. Not quite as good. But if you don't mind wiring up your house, Ethernet is always the best. And I'll say that to people too. Yeah, this is just not working. So we're only pulling 340 megabits per second. Now it could be that I'm going through the wrong network. So let's troubleshoot that. I have disabled, I think the only network connection I am currently using is my USB connector. And what we need to do now is figure out what the cause of the problem here is. So I'm going to force this, it's on auto select. Just kind of reforce it to connect again. Ah, interesting. All right, so we're going to have to dig into this a little bit here. Okay. Yeah, this is exactly it for what Jason just said here, is that it takes a while to kind of figure it out. And generally there's like one aha moment, right? That, oh, that's what it is. So now what we have to do is try to figure out where in the chain here we're having these bandwidth issues, because that Mac is connected at a much greater rate of speed than this one is. So yeah, we're only getting about 300 and something megabits per second. Now it could be that my Mac is the problem, right? On the other side. So I'm going to run a quick speedtest.net thing here and see what I get. So I can't show you that because it's got my IP address up on screen, but let's see. Ah, yeah, see, this is interesting. So it's something in my local network. So, because I'm getting, oh, now it's going back down a little bit. Here, I can show this to you really quickly. So it's actually pushing. I'll wait for it to finish and I'll show you. So I'm actually getting 2 gigs out right now onto the internet. So hang on a second, folks. So let me just give you my screen. Okay, so check it out. See that? So we are getting 2 gigs. In fact, I'm getting my full upstream speed, but the download is a little iffy. So that tells me that my iMac is probably, there's something wrong with the iMac over there. So let me go check that out real quick, because it's definitely giving me my full internet connection speed. So what could be the cause of this? Well, the Wi-Fi is off. Let's see. I'm just looking through any limitations that I've enabled on the software. None. So the iMac might need a reboot. That might be our ultimate solution here. So I'm going to check the iMac's connection to the internet real quick. And that's one thing that's really helpful in having a super fast connection, is that you get the full, I get the full bandwidth on my local network. Yeah, so something is up with my iMac and its USB Ethernet adapter, because it's only getting about 300 megabits per second downstream right now. And this Mac is really temperamental. It's getting old. And I've got just like a USB to 2.5 gigabit adapter on there. Yeah, so this thing is totally zonked. So let me go check one other thing here. And so the iMac was definitely the problem. So we're just going to reboot the Mac. And of course, my other problem is that I am dealing with my Unify router, which is not cooperating. So I think that's also part of the equation here. So I'm going to reboot that Mac, and then we'll load it back up again and see if we can get those speeds. So the good news is that these things are working as advertised. We're able to, as you just saw, we're able to push 2 gigabits per second through this Ethernet cable into this thing, into this, 100 feet, into this, and then out to the internet. That's what we just did. So that is where it went. And right, this is not full duplex. So what it's going to constantly be doing is kind of managing the send and receive. So it's 2.5 gigabits in both directions. But if the sending is using it and it has the capacity, as you just saw, it'll give you the full 2, at least for my internet connection. But yeah, this is like I said, I think this is a good alternative if, the way I look at these things, this is good for backhaul, especially for Wi-Fi mesh. So if, for example, let's say you've got like one of those Unify networks or something similar, you can run your Wi-Fi access points through a coax backend, and that way you're not using wireless to backhaul. And so these are really good for backhaul. If you got a kid that's playing games, they're great because you can plug these in. The kid gets their PlayStation on the network with a hardwired connection. It adds about 4 or 5 milliseconds of lag. So that's kind of how it's working. And Thomas on the Amazon chat says, I've heard mixed things about Ubiquiti lately. I'd consider switching over privacy concerns, but I haven't found anything that matches their price for the feature set. And I think that's exactly it. It's like, it's one of those things with Ubiquiti that you kind of get into a nice, robust feature set, and you have to put up with all the other crap that comes with it. And that's kind of where I'm at with it at the moment. All right, so let's take a look and see now that Mac is rebooted if I can get some more speed out of it. David Tuttle, 2.5 gigabit MoCA, cool. It's certainly nice to know that I could use this if I wanted to have a wired connection somewhere I already have coax. Yeah, and actually, any of the MoCA 2.5 adapters are running, they are running at 2.5 on the coax side. But these now, there's 2 more from Translite that just came out also. These will give you that full 2 gigs over the Ethernet, because the other ones just had gigabit Ethernet before. Okay, let's do an update here. And I could be having other network problems, which is probably a likely cause of whatever issues I'm experiencing right now. And if that's the case, we're going to have to, I'm just going to go leave for an hour to, all right, graph max speed. Okay, so we're good now. Let's go back over there, make sure the Wi-Fi's off. It's off. Okay, let's try that Wi-Fi perf test again. Okay, never a dull moment here. So I'm going to hit run here. Now that Mac has been rebooted, and now we're doing better. So here, let me show you what it's getting now. You're not quite the 2 that we saw on the internet speed test. Now this is going from the Mac to me. And so as you can see, we're pushing over a gigabit, 1.5 gigabits here. And then we'll go in the other direction. And as it's been pointed out, you don't get 2.5 in both directions simultaneously. So if this Mac that I'm using right now is doing any kind of background data transmission, that will impact things, because if I don't know, if it's uploading whatever to iCloud, that is going to have to share the overall bandwidth that way, right? So let's try another direction here. This is from this Mac to the iMac on the other side of the room. There you go, boom. So there you go. That is what we wanted. And this is with the security enabled. So we are getting the lion's share of that connection on the upstream. And I just got to figure out why on the other direction we're not. Although this gets into like jumbo frames and all that other garbage. So, you know, we've got to troubleshoot some more LAN stuff here. But, you know, from this Mac to the other Mac, we're getting the full speed. So that was part of what I wanted to accomplish here. So that's good. And the other thing we're going to do real quick, and then I'll take some questions, is we'll run the Blackmagic disk speed test. And let's take a look at the latency too. That's a good point. So let's pull up my terminal window, and we'll just run some pings over to the other machine here. So let's zoom in a little bit. All right, so then we're going to go ping 192.168.2.36. And that's, so the overhead is probably 3 milliseconds. Because you see we're getting into like the 4s there a little bit. And that's just because you're pushing data from one medium to the other and back again, right? So it looks like it's a pretty consistent 3 milliseconds of added lag, which is, you know, minuscule, but still there. And that's just the nature of the beast. There's not much of a latency difference between having security on or not. So take that for what it's worth. Okay. Doom somehow says, did I miss the iPerf? You did, but you know what? I'll do another one. How's that? So let's try another one here. So we're going to go again from the client to the server. And we're at 2.5 with, and by the way, I'm also using Ethernet adapters on both, USB Ethernet adapters on both ends. So that could also have some contributing factor in the bandwidth direction here. But there you go. So this is from this Mac to the other Mac over the local network. Now we're not competing for anything else. But you can see that's what we're getting. So not bad. It's 2 gigabits. That's what we're getting, 2.5, and you're getting it all out of one device. Now, when we tried these before, so the last time I had these things in, it was a wild science experiment. And the reason it was that I needed 4 of them to be able to test how much bandwidth you could push over the coax, because they could only send or receive a gigabit each. So these now are 2.5 each. So you essentially have all of the bandwidth that you can get over this wire on this one. And the other ones are just 1 gig each. So this is a much simpler test than what we had to do last time. Because before, remember, we had to get splitters out and everything else. And the reason why you don't hear about MoCA more than from me is because for consumers, it's really complicated. Because this gets into coax and interference and getting things tightened properly and having splitters that are of the right type. So for example, this splitter is what you need for MoCA. This is one of the splitters you need for it. But you want to make sure that it's got a wide frequency range, because a lot of these splitters don't. They kind of cut it off at like 1500 megahertz or whatever. So 5 to 2300 megahertz here. This is like, if you do a search for MoCA splitter, you'll find these particular ones. And I've tested these work fine. And if you've got older splitters in your walls, that will impact things. And I've experienced that. So whoever built this house, actually I know who built this house. The people that wired the cable didn't know what they were doing, because they put splitters in every single room. And I'm not talking like 1 splitter, I'm talking like 4 splitters in each room. It's crazy. And for some reason, they put a cable jack in the ceiling. Like, why would you want that? So I have all of these terribly old splitters everywhere. And it was fine for MoCA 2.0, but 2.5, not so good. It needs a broader frequency range, I think. So you may spend a lot of time like chasing down bad filters or bad splitters to get everything working. And then, of course, it's coax. So you're also prone to the strength of the signal, because every time you split, there's a power reduction. And you can see that indicated on here, right? So it takes the cable in, and then you have a 5.5 dB reduction off of each of these because it's taking that energy and then splitting it 3 ways. So if it's weak going in, it's going to get weaker each time you split it. And so all of those things factor in. So that's how that goes. And yeah, they have, it's up on the ceiling. There is a cable jack and a power outlet. So it looks like they had intended on putting it on the ceiling, or maybe they did it as a joke, I don't know. But that's for, like, I don't think I'd want a TV like hanging over my bed. I'd just be afraid it'd fall on me, right? I guess they're lighter now than they used to be. And when they built the house, this house was built in 2004. There weren't light televisions yet. And Travis bought himself a powered coax splitter. That's a good one. And you want to get a 2-way splitter for that, amplifier. And then you want to make sure that it amplifies and is in the MoCA frequency range. So you want to make sure it's MoCA compatible. And you'll see that when you're shopping around for these things, is you'll see MoCA compatible. So that's something to look for. All right, so let me check one other thing we're going to do here real quick. We're going to run the Blackmagic disk speed test. And let me just create a separate window here for that. And what I'm going to do is we're going to connect to the Mac's hard drive over there and just write data to it in both directions and see how it goes. So what I am expecting to see when we run this test is I am expecting that we will get about 200 megabytes per second in reads and writes. And I suspect that the reads will be a little slower because of whatever networking issues I've got on that computer over there. So we have to kind of troubleshoot that. So we're going to pull this up and we'll hit start. And okay, yep, in the ballpark, not quite, but in the ballpark. And it's connecting to an SSD over there, so we're not dealing with disk bandwidth as our problem. So we're going to have to troubleshoot this a little bit more, I think. The reads are definitely slower than I expect, are where I expect them to be based on the problem I'm having. So yeah, I'm going to have to dig into this a little bit more, I think. And it could very well be I've got this lousy USB adapter on there. Actually, you know what I can do? Let me stop this real quick because I have the iMac over there. Is that on, or the Mac Mini? I think that might be on my faster network. And if it isn't, I can get it on there. And that one's got a built-in 10 gig adapter, so that should give us a little more stuff here. And Sesh Pumpkin picked up a couple of these Frontier rebranded GoCoax units. And that's exactly it. If running Ethernet is too much work or too expensive, or you don't own the home you're in, but you got cable jacks everywhere, boom, problem solved. Better than Wi-Fi. And it can be an assistant to Wi-Fi too. And Travis, thank you for linking that on the Facebook page. That'd be really helpful for people. And actually, you can put it in the chat here too if you can. It might be helpful. I don't know if it'll let you, but if you can, give it a shot. Scott says you can lay in bed. Yeah, if it is over your head, I could see there's some value to that, for sure. But I still would not like a TV hanging over my head like that. I think it'd scare the you-know-what out of me. And the ceiling in my bedroom is pretty high, so I'm like, yeah, that's not where I want to be up. Dasani uses Rogers Ignite as my modem and internet provider. How can I tell if MoCA is enabled? You know, one way you can tell is to just buy one of these and plug it in. Because if there's MoCA on the network, they'll just connect to it. And that's the beauty of it. They just kind of find it and connect to it. Let me see if, and I may have to reconnect here. Yeah, let me just do a quick reconnection. And then I'll check on the other device here. Because I'm going to show you what it looks like when you're connected. So let me show you the screen that you will see when you've got more than one device on the network. Let me pull this up for you. All right, so if we go over to MoCA link rates, we'll see 2 on here. See that? And both are running with MoCA 2.5. So you can see that if I go from 0 to 1, in other words, from MoCA device 0 on this connection to MoCA device 1, now there's overhead with your MoCA connection, so it's always going to report far more than what you're going to get. And then if I'm on MoCA device 1 and want to connect to 0, that's the data rate I'll get. But again, it's not symmetrical, so it's total bandwidth. But that's what's nice about these, is that you've got this neat little control panel. And I've demoed this before. I'll probably just link in the screenshot from the other video that I did. When you have MoCA 1.0 devices on the same cable, those will show up here also. And then you can see what the data rates would be between different devices. And this is a really helpful way of kind of figuring out what you can expect data-wise. Like, what are they negotiating their speeds at? Zosu wants to know, does latency increase? Oops, let me resend this over to my system here. Oh, my thing is not working all of a sudden. So the question is, does latency increase? Oh, you know why? Because I took this off the network. Hang on a second. Sorry, everybody. Does latency increase if there are more MoCA devices on the same network? The answer is, I don't believe so. There's a limit, though. The limit is 16, I believe. I think that's the limit. Let's take a look. I'm just looking through here to see what the limits are. I think it's 16 devices. Yes. So 16 total on one leg of cable. Now, of course, you could run separate coax cable, or if you have the ability to segment it, then you could set up 2 different MoCA networks and interconnect them somewhere in the middle. Thomas on the Amazon chat, the M1 Mac Mini with 10 gig is a tempting offer now that many ISPs, even Comcast, are offering greater than gigabit speeds in many markets. Yeah, I bought I don't have the M1 iMac, I have the Intel one, and I bought that one with 2.5, with 10 gig on it. So Scott has MoCA adapters, got 4 2.5 adapters, and latency is very good. And Corey has it. I guess it looks like you're running it too. Yeah, plug and play. You know, again, the only thing that I would caution about plug and play is just make sure that you understand the security implications. So the other complexity with MoCA is so they have these filters that you're supposed to put kind of at the beginning of your premises. So basically, the cable wire comes in from the cable company. You plug in the filter there, and then you run the cable out to the rest of your house. And what that does is it keeps the frequencies that these transmit at inside your home. They don't leak out of your house. Because theoretically, and actually more than theoretically, anyone that's, now I don't have this problem because I am disconnected from, my internal TV wiring is disconnected from the street. I am basically running dark coax right now. But if I was still connected to the cable company all the way into my house, anyone that's on the same leg as me going back to the node theoretically could be picking up these MoCA packets. So that's one reason why you want the filter. And if you don't want to do the filter, then at least put the security on, so that way only devices that are paired to each other will communicate. And that's a little bit of a better way to go. And Travis found the same thing I did, that 3 milliseconds seems to be the added latency with them. Shabbat's asking, is this an alternative? This is an addition to. So I have some rooms in my house where these things make a lot of sense because I don't want to run Ethernet necessarily, right? They don't consume all that much power. It's about 5 or 6 watts. So it's a very quick and dirty way to backhaul low latency, high bandwidth to remote parts of my house. And that's why I kind of like that. Scott Peters wants to see the, let me go back here. Now I've got to hang on one second. I will show you this. I have to reconnect. So I have to set the IP address to the network that it sits on there. So let me do that real quick, and I'll show you the hardware settings page here. So you want to see the hardware version. So I'll pull up the device status here. Is that what you're looking for? Hardware SoC version? And I can check also the upgrade page. I think it'll tell us what version we're on. We're on 2.06 for the firmware. Oh, sorry, I didn't show you that. Hang on. So 2.06 for the firmware status, and then that's the hardware info. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to set this to DHCP, although because my stupid Unify thing is broken, I can't actually figure out, I'm just going to leave it for now. Yeah, you know what? Let's do it. I'll figure it out. Okay. I'm going to set that to DHCP, and that way I can get at it from the rest of my network. And it looks like the problem, I've been following this Reddit thread about my Unify issue here. So it looks as though the current firmware has a memory leak problem. Had to upgrade to beta 1.1 before issues. It's like, it's just driving me crazy every time with them. So I filled out a support ticket. We'll see what they say, but it's just incredibly aggravating. Okay, so let's take some more questions here. And I think I'm going to move the... so Elliot says, are they true 2.5 gig speeds? Yeah, it looks like they are. They seem to be operating in that realm. George has fiber to the home, but fiber to the, yeah, so where I live, it's all, well, with the exception of my house, it is fiber to the node, and then we're on coax everywhere else. But they did bring in fiber just for my internet connection here, but I still have coax for TV. But I've got that, so what comes in from the street is just plugged right into my HD home run because we're all networked here, so I don't have any of the stuff connected. However, the other thing that if you're not familiar with these things, these work alongside your existing TV signals. So because the cable industry is a partner in this, they allow these to operate over the same cables that they're delivering TV and internet on because they reserve the frequency range on the cable for internal MoCA wiring. Because the industry, as many of you pointed out, the industry uses MoCA for a lot of their inter-device communications within the home. So when you buy these and you hook them up, no problem, it'll work with your existing TV. You do have to split, though, obviously. If you have this near your television, you're going to have a splitter nearby, and you're going to need to get a splitter that supports MoCA, and you'll have to split it from the TV out from the wall. One wire goes to the TV, the other one goes to the coax adapter. And Scott says it's a different version. Yeah, they just came out with these. I suspect there's something different with these, perhaps. Maybe to accommodate the Ethernet. I'm not sure. But it's very interesting. All right, give me 1 second, folks. I'm going to go check and see how I have that Mac connected over there, and I'm going to patch that into my 10 gig network. Now, the only challenge with this Mac here is that we are pushing the data a little bit further over 5E. So I haven't, if I recall, I haven't been using this one on the 10 gig network just because of the cable length. But you know what? For this purpose, we should be okay. So this is the one port they did not label in my room here. Let's take a look here and see. Let's see what it's connected at now. I'll be right back over there, folks. All right, so this one is, I think my little mouse here went kaput. So this was the computer that Jake was using before COVID hit. Now we're pretty much out of the woods here, but it's been actually working with him mostly remote. So we haven't been using his Mac Mini all that much. He logs into it remotely. That's the other aggravation with this firmware, or this ubiquity problem I have, because I have to reconfigure the whole VPN because it's going to issue a whole new certificate and da-da-da-da. It's just a never-ending source of frustration for me. And the worst part is that it's like if I was totally down, I would be doing nothing but troubleshooting the router right now. But because it's providing at least some connectivity for me, I'm not motivated to fix it. So that's where we're at. Give me 1 second. I just got to get his mouse some batteries here. All right, plug this in. And we'll take a look and see what network we're on here. There we go. Okay, so let's see. We are on Ethernet 255, and we're on Gigabit. So I've got to figure out what port we are connected to. So I think that wall is 1, so he's likely the last leg because my wall is 4. Ugh. Yes, I think he's on 5, and that would be 5. It's probably a 5C. Yeah, I've got 4 Ethernet drops on each wall. And we did that on purpose because I wanted to have as many direct runs as possible. So I'm just following this cable through here. That's not that one. This is 5C. Yep, so we are plugged in. And of course, we've got my beautiful cable management in here. Yeah, so he's plugged into that one. So we're going to unplug it from there. And we're going to stick it in this one, and that should get us a 2.5 or a 10 gig connection when it connects. No, it's only connected at 1 gig. All right, so that's not the right one. Nope, I connected the wrong one. Hang on a second, everybody. Hopefully I didn't disconnect something important. Let's try this one. I have 2 cables that are both black and look identical to each other, so I pulled the wrong one. So this one is going to there, but that one's not working. Okay, hang on 1 more second, folks. That's 6. 680C. And that one is 5. Oh, you know what? I may have disconnected our broadcast here. Hang on a second. Hopefully I didn't disconnect our broadcast. No, I didn't. Okay, so that's good. So it's probably on... Sorry, everybody. I'm just trying to figure out which cable. I need to get one of those tone things that can tell me who's what. So that wall is 3. Okay, so that's 3. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. This must be 6. Because that is 5. No, it can't be 6, is it? Let's see, 5. That's 4. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3. I'll be right back, everybody. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on here. That's 3. So 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so that must be 6. So we just need to trace where 6 is going out of here. All right, so 6, A, B, and C. I think it's probably 6C if I had to guess. And that's the one that's connected. So let's take that one. And that cable doesn't reach. All right, so we'll take this one. And we'll plug that one in there, and that should light up double green. And we got nothing. All right, so it's not that one. And this one is, so that one. So let's plug in. There we go. Okay, now we're up. So now I'm going to go back over to that Mac. It's at 10 gig now. And let's load up Wi-Fi perf on this one. Okay, so this is at 55, I think, is our network address. Yes, okay. And then also, I am going to check if we are sharing the network drive so I can do my disk test. We are. Okay, good. Sorry for the delay, everybody. I'm just trying to figure out where everything is plugged in. Okay, so now I'm back. Okay. Yes, I'm a little nervous about the cable length. I mean, it's not like I'm doing anything mission critical here, but all right, so let's do our first iPerf run over there and see what we get. And it's refusing the connection. Okay, one more second here. And that could be a firewall thing, so let me go check on that real quick. But you see all the troubleshooting we go through here? So it takes a while to get everything lined up for a review, because I like to be thorough. I like to make sure that I'm covering everything. The firewall's off. Let me check one more thing here, folks. 255, advanced hardware. Yeah, we're at 10 gig. Let's load up Wi-Fi perf again and see if, okay, server started. Okay, 5201. Okay, 192.168.2.255, and it just doesn't want to communicate. There it goes. Now it's going. Okay, so just like before, this time though we're not relying on a USB adapter on the other side, and so this is going from client to server, and we're getting, you know, essentially the bandwidth I would expect. Now we'll reverse it here, and I think we're probably going to see the same thing because I may have to adjust some of the packet jump. Oh, there it goes. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay, so that's much better. So there's probably some settings on that iMac's Ethernet adapter that have to be adjusted, but you know, we're not doing this simultaneously, but I pushed, you know, 2.5 gigabits essentially down, and now I'm getting 2.5 back. So the iMac is where we want to be. So let me record that again, and then we'll move on to the Blackmagic speed test. And I know the SSD in that Mac is super fast. So there you go. Okay. So let me go back over there, and all right, so we're going to start client to server, and I'm just going to zoom in on the screen here a little bit and run the test. Now remember, this is not a simultaneous stream of data going back and forth. Basically what we're doing here is sending 2.5 gigabits out, and then we're going to get 2.5 gigabits back. But that's what we want. Perfect. Now to recap, what's happening here is that, excuse me, this laptop on the desk here, I've got the M1 MacBook Air. We've got a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet adapter here. You can barely see it. It's a pluggable Ethernet adapter. So this is running at 2.5 gigabits, not 2.5 gigawatts, as what's his name would say. So we've got the data flowing through the cable here, right, this Ethernet cable. It's connecting via Ethernet to this box at 2.5 gigabits per second. This box is taking that data, pushing it out on coax cable here. This cable is 100 feet in length. It's going all the way around my room and back again, kind of simulate an apartment environment, I guess, right? And then the cable is coming back into this box. It's encrypted, by the way, in both directions. And then this cable is connected to my internet network router. So this one is not directly connected to my local network. It is essentially connected through a coax bridge. So this coax cable is bridging the network to this adapter that would presumably be somewhere else in the house. So under that scenario, we just achieved speeds of 2.3 gigabits per second downstream. In other words, actually upstream, from this computer to the Mac on the table over there. So now what I'm going to do, bear with me here, folks. So I'm going to say iperf client to server. And now we're going to reverse directions. So now we're going to go from server to client. Again, it's kind of reverse the transaction here. And now, as you can see, we're getting the same speed on the other end. So we're successfully transmitting data at the same speed in both directions, but not at the same time. And by the way, these speeds are nothing new for MoCA. MoCA 2.5 could do 2.5 gigabits, no problem. But it was only able to do that within its coax network because there were not, up until now, there were not adapters that gave you a 2.5 gig Ethernet connection on the output. So now we've got that. All right, so now let's try the Blackmagic disk speed test again. Let's see what we get here. Okay, so now we're going to select my Mac Mini. And hopefully I see it on the network here because I don't see it at the moment. Lon's Mac Mini. And we'll go into the downloads folder. Click open. Okay, so now here is a test in which we should see better speeds than what we saw before. So I should see about 200 megabytes in both directions. And we're close. So before you'd get about 100 megabytes per second. Now you're getting, ooh, that's not good. And we're connecting to the SSD over there. So I've got to figure out how to demonstrate this better. Because we should see better read speeds. And frankly, better write speeds for that matter too. But I'm not sure what's different about this activity versus what we were just doing. And you know what it could be, actually, is that this switches from read to write very quickly. And I wonder if the MoCA devices need time to kind of rejigger, right? Because we're saturating one direction. And I wonder if maybe there's a delay in which it's not yet able to revert the bandwidth availability. What do you all think about that? Because that could have an impact for NAS usage depending on how much data you're pushing back and forth over it. Because that's similar to what we just saw before, right? So that's odd. we haven't really tested this before, like doing file read writes. So that's interesting. So Zozu is wondering about, can it do gigabit both directions at the same time? No, so it is 2.5 total, and then it figures out how much to allocate in each direction based on usage, I guess. And that's doing it amongst its partners that it's communicating with. So that's that. But yeah, I was expecting that we would see, let me just make sure I'm connected to the right drive on there too. And you know what, let me just double check and make sure, see, we were definitely not on the Wi-Fi, but I do want to check that computer over there just to see if its Wi-Fi is on, if that might have created some funkiness. But nope, the Wi-Fi is definitely off. Oh, it looks like Jake might, you know what it could be? I think Jake is logged into this computer right now. That could be what's going on too. But it shouldn't impact it that significantly, because I don't think he's doing that much on the disk. So we'll have to explore that a bit further. However, I kind of trust the iPerf test, right? Because that's more of a network kind of thing. Keith is asking if these are available for purchase now. Yes, they are, as a matter of fact. If you click on the link in my video description, let me just double check and see if they are available. Let's see. Yep, they are available for 1-day Prime delivery. Here, I'll put it up on screen here for you. So these are the ones that we are currently playing with. So $74.99, and you'll need two, right? Because you have to have one on each end at least. Here's our live stream as it's going right now. Now, here's the thing. There is also this one, and this is the other one here, which we reviewed previously. And by the way, if you scroll down far enough, you'll see it on the page here. The other one that we reviewed previously, let's see, where is it here at the bottom? There's my review, which we did last year. These are also running at 2.5 gigabits per second. So the Ethernet component, and there's some things that I like better about these. One is that it's got a splitter essentially built in, so you don't have to get another splitter for each TV that you're hooking it up to. And the only downside is that the LAN output is only gigabit, but the backbone is still 2.5. So if, for example, you were transiting data between two of your MoCA devices at a gigabit, there's still another gigabit left, right? And that's what the 2.5 will do. 2.0 is a gigabit total. These are 2.5 total. And the less expensive ones, if you don't need a 2.5 gig connected computer, you're golden. And again, I like the fact that it's got the splitter built in. These do not have a built-in splitter. So you'll have to get a splitter and split it. And I don't think they're re-amplifying the signal, but still, it's just nice to have it built in, because on these other ones, you can just plug your TV into one spot and the wall outlet to the other, and you're done. So that's the big difference between those. And Scott makes a very good point here. This is exactly it. What I say to people, just like Scott's saying, is that if you are capable of running Ethernet, do it. If you don't want to or can't, this is the next best thing. So Don bought two. And Scott says, my testing, oh, okay, interesting. So, interesting. So you might need more parallel. Yeah, this is my thought, is that it was allocating bandwidth and it didn't switch over. Because what happens with that test is that it writes at 5 gigs and then it immediately reads it back. So if we were on that computer, it would be running at the full SSD speed of that machine. So I was expecting that we should see a little bit more consistency. I think if I were to plug directly, you know, we should try that real quick. Let's try that. So I'm going to unplug the network connection here, and we're going to plug directly into the Ethernet now. Okay, so now we're going to kind of do a real, let's look at how Ethernet behaves in this instance versus MoCA. Okay, so again, now we're off the MoCA network, directly connected at 2.5 via this USB adapter, because it could very well be my USB adapter that I'm using here, right? So let's see. See, now that's a big difference, isn't it? And that's what I was expecting. But the reads are still slower, aren't they? Look at that. Huh. So it's a combination of factors. But it does get to where you would expect it to be. Isn't that weird, though? Because the iPerf, it was working as you'd expect. But again, so this is direct Ethernet. You know, we're running off the same switch, too. Okay, so that's direct Ethernet. So let's go back on the MoCA. You know, well, maybe run the iPerf that way, too, and see if we get a difference there. Okay, so now we're back on. Okay, so now we're back on MoCA. So it definitely behaves differently. And I'm guessing it's competing with whatever traffic my MacBook might be doing in one direction or the other, right? And unfortunately, with this test, I cannot force it to just do one side or the other. It's got to do both sides. So maybe I can hook up a Windows laptop and try that, but that's really interesting. All right, so there you go. Robert Van Edda speculates it could be something to do with the increased latency. Yeah, it's very minimal latency though, right? But maybe that does a couple milliseconds makes a difference. Andrew's wondering the type of coax we have. That's a good question. This is, let's see what it says here. I don't think it's printed on the wire, is it? Yeah, it is. This is and it's 18. Let me look it up. I got to look it up. I'm not sure what ohms it's rated at. I bought this spool of cable a while ago for the last MoCA project I had. I never ended up using it. Okay, so this is 75 ohm. Yeah, so I bought 100 feet of 75 ohm RG6. So that's what I got there. Let me know if you think that might make a difference. And George, yes, I could do Crystal Disk Mark, and I would need to get my Windows computer hooked up for that. But I could do that real quick. Jacob on Amazon is wondering, how do I know if MoCA is built in? Generally, and this is a generalized statement, generally the Comcast ones have it, and I think some of the other cable providers do too. Honestly, the easiest way to find out is to buy one of these things and plug it in to your cable TV wiring. If the MoCA light lights up, you've got MoCA, because that means it connected to something. And if it doesn't, then you don't. Then you buy another one. Then you can connect them that way. So, but it looks like Scott's findings are consistent with mine. I may want to ask somebody about this, because I know the people at the MoCA Alliance. I should ask them about it and see if what they've experienced. Because like I said, I've never really done that disk speed test before. We've usually stuck to iPerf tests and, you know, less, you know, not things unrelated to disk performance, right? We've been doing iPerf and gaming and that sort of stuff. So let me grab my And so Scott's found that one direction for him is always slower. And you know what's so funny about this is that when we do the iPerf, it's not. But maybe it's the nature of the data, right? So I'm doing TCP right now. I wonder if we switch to UDP, if that would make an impact. Let's take a look. I think I have to go, hang on. I got to go load up the, the test again on the other side. Because remember, TCP requires a packet to be sent back to acknowledge receipt, where UDP is just a big dump of data, as I understand it. So, and I would imagine if you're doing file sharing, you're probably not doing UDP. Now, the other thing I could do is load up another instance of this and have it shoot data somewhere else. All right, so let's run this UDP. I'm just waiting for it to pop up. Huh, yeah, UDP is a lot slower. Look, it was like barely measurable. But it could just be the nature of how this works. So if we go to TCP, yeah, we're getting what we expected. You know, so generally for browsing the web and like all the things you do generally with a network extender, this will be fine. And honestly, it's not bad for file transfers either. I mean, I think what we were doing was kind of an extreme example where we're writing a ton of data and then reading it back. Now, we did take a dip there, and it could very well be these Macs are sending data constantly, so you'll see those drops, and that's one of the reasons that it's a little different. Okay. All right, so now that's one direction. So, and we did this earlier. We did both directions earlier. So now, so that was server to client, and now we'll go client to server. So you can see here the transfer direction is right up here. And this is the Mac Wi-Fi Perf app, which unfortunately they're not developing anymore. But you can see client to server, 2.3, right? And then if I go the other way, server to client, also 2.3. Now, one thing I could try, let's think here for a minute. Why don't I do, I'm going to split my screen out here a little bit. So what I could try is maybe we do an internet speed test while running the iPerf and see. So JC says now the Xfinity people are disabling MoCA by default. And I think they have an option to turn it on. And if I'm not mistaken, though, I think the MoCA that's on the Comcast routers is only like MoCA 1.0, so you're going to be in the 100 megabit territory. So you might want to get the 2.5 adapters. And what you could do also, so I'm just trying to think about how to best maximize this. I think if you have, so without question, if you have a 2.5 device somewhere on your network that you want to connect at full speed, you're going to need to have two of these because we're connecting to my network at 2.5 gigabits through this cable, and then we're connecting to the computer at 2.5 out of this one. So that's what you need. And I'm trying to think if I have anything else. So it's funny, with all this stuff that I've got, ooh, I have an idea. You know what I have upstairs? I have a Thunderbolt Ethernet adapter. And if the USB is the issue, my guess the Thunderbolt one won't be. Let me go get that real quick. Why don't you all talk amongst yourselves here for a minute, and I will be right back. I'll give you something to look at. So I'll give you these things to look at here. Let me go get that Ethernet adapter. And we'll just try one more thing. But this may very well be a very quick review because my doors need some WD-40, I think. Because there's not a lot new here beyond the Ethernet connection. And I always hate like repeating myself with these videos. Okay, so let's try the Thunderbolt adapter. I'm just going to check on my porch here, see if any goodies arrived. Nope. I'm not expecting any new things today. Okay, so now we're going to bring the heavy artillery here. So now this is a Thunderbolt 10 gig Ethernet adapter. Now this will work at 2.5. So if our USB adapter here is the culprit, the Thunderbolt one will, because yeah, these things are fine, but like they're $25, right? So who knows? It could very well be contributing to this disk speed test issue. All right, so now we're going to plug in the Thunderbolt Ethernet adapter. This is what I use upstairs in the kitchen to connect my laptop to the network. All right, so now we're going to connect this up, and we'll wait for that to come online here. Okay, so now that's on the network. So we're going to go back to the disk speed test. And let's see if we can blame the Ethernet. Whoa, hang on a second, wrong drive. So I was just connecting, look, like, whoop, that's the internal drive on the Mac here. We got to connect again to the iMac, or the Mac Mini. Okay, downloads. Okay, let's open up that. Okay, here we go. All right, so we got about what we got before. Again, this is with the Thunderbolt Ethernet adapter now. Yeah, it's still the same thing. So my guess, yeah, see how it's starting to speed up there? My guess is that, and I don't know how this stuff works, but if it's got a pool of 2.5 gigabits per second, and it sees a huge burst that saturates all of it in one direction, I'm guessing it must be holding something in reserve in case that burst comes back. I don't know. Maybe there's some timing issue. Because remember, that speed test is just so. Okay, so we could get the Windows laptop and just try a file transfer that way, because it was on the reads that we were experiencing this. And the reason why you want the Windows laptop is the Mac doesn't report to you the speed in which it is copying data, but Windows does by default. So to do that, which one do we want to use? I do have this thing. Let's see if this is not going to be all that quick. This is the ARM one we just looked at. I've got my other little whatever it is upstairs. Let me go get that real quick, and then we'll call it a day and see if we can. This is what happens when I start diving down rabbit holes, right? Because we never looked at file transfer speeds so much as we've been looking at more. I wouldn't call iPerf an artificial or a synthetic benchmark. Per se, but it kind of is. It's not doing something real. It's just transmitting data at high rates, right? Okay, so now we've got the, I'm getting my workout today. So now we've got my little Surface Laptop Go here. I have no idea where its power adapter went, so hopefully there's enough energy in here. Actually, you know what I might do? So this has like an adapter, so you can use it as USB. Here, I'll show you a better view of it here. So this little pluggable guy can be USB-A or USB-C. Because it's only 2.5 gigabits, so you don't need a lot. So what I'm going to do here is disconnect the Mac, and we're going to plug the Windows computer in. And we'll see what we get here. So let's disconnect this for a second. And looking at some comments here, let me get my Wi-Fi back on this one. Corey says his Frontier gateway is MoCA 2.0 bonded. And actually that's great because that bonded connection is Gigabit. So you have a gigabit backbone on that thing. Okay, so now we're going to plug this in. Now here's what's neat about this. I have this dock on the end of my desk. Even though this is Thunderbolt, it actually switches to USB Type-C. So I can get the video output through the other thing there. Okay. Now, the other thing I didn't think about is I need to make sure the Mac is set up to share files with Windows, because that's the only thing we've got on 2.5 gigabit over there. So let me go deal with that. And it looks like my video is not outputting. If I can force that here. Hang on one second, everybody. Let's try to get that going. All right, not there yet. One second. Okay, so let's do let's mirror the displays here, duplicate these displays, keep changes. Oh, this thing's such a pain in the butt. All right, I will tell you what I see. Give me 1 second to go get that Mac configured, and then we'll give this another shot here. But you see, running a tech channel can be good exercise if you have to keep jumping around from one machine to the next, right? So we're going to go to sharing and privacy, and make sure that we have, let's see, so sharing. We have Windows. Yep, we're good there. SMB is enabled. Okay. So we got that going. And the video output's not working, but I will tell you what I see when we do it. I could probably cycle power to this thing and see if that might. Okay. See if that comes back there. Okay, so now what I need to do is connect to the other computer, and to do that, I need to get my thing here plugged in to the USB cable. All right, almost there, folks. George says definitely, yeah, these USB-C to USB-A adapters are definitely helpful. And you know, it's funny because I'm really of two minds on USB Type-C, because on the one hand, it's really flexible, right? But on the other, it's confusing, because people have a hard time, you know, trying to figure out what plugs into what. You know, we got the other issue of USB Thunderbolt running over the same exact cable. I hear from people all the time on that. Why doesn't this dock work on my computer? And now, and they've made it better, because now you can have a dock, right, that works great on both. And then it gives you like this sense of security that, like, oh, I can just plug this dock in whenever I want, right? All right, now it's just not finding my Mac here, so give me 1 second. But I'm pretty sure I've got like a big file sitting on that Mac that I can pull off. I'm just having trouble with the video output on this Windows computer, so that's why we don't see the screen right now. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to reboot this thing because it's all frozen up. 1 more second, then we'll get this going. And if you're just joining us, we are testing out the GoCoax MoCA adapters. What these do is extend your network over your cable TV wiring. And I know somebody will say, why not Ethernet? Well, Ethernet is always the best. And part of what we're trying to figure out right now is something related to that. However, if you can't run Ethernet, or you don't want to go through the expense of doing so, and you've got cable jacks all over the place, then you can run these. And so what we've been able to do so far is demonstrate with kind of like a synthetic network test, more or less. But we've been able to demonstrate that these can transit 2.5 gigabits per second through their Ethernet adapter out to the coax and back again. So they work as advertised. And what we're trying to do right now is just troubleshoot some anomalous readings we're seeing with our file transfer test that I was just running. So we're going to continue to troubleshoot that. All right, there we go. So now, I'm trying to see if I can force this little Mac here to, or this little Windows machine to give me a 1080p output so you can actually see it. All right, you know what I'm going to do? Let's just go. All right, I'm just going to look at it this way. I'll figure it out. It's going to be a little bit of latency for me here in trying to see the screen and click on the right thing at the right time, but it'll work. Okay, so let me just go and connect to my Mac and see what I've got for files. All right, so we go to the downloads directory. Okay, it looks like I've got a 2-ish gigabyte file, which would be a great test. Because where we were hitting the roadblock was on the transfer from the Mac to us. And so I've got a file in there. Wait a minute, what am I looking at? Let's see, I'm connecting to a downloads folder somewhere. All right, I need to get a bigger file. So let me grab something off my NAS and just stick it on here. Be right there, folks. As they say, this is how the sausage gets made, right? It takes a while to figure out all these little nuances. All right, so I've got like a 2 gig, here I got a 2 gig video that we did, 2.27 gigs. So I'm going to put that on this drive. And I'm going to copy that file to the Windows machine. And then that'll give us a good idea as to what the transfer rate is. Now, if we're running at a true 2.5 gigabits, we should see this copy at about 2 gigabytes per second, or 200 megabytes per second. And okay, there's my folder there. Okay, I think that's what I'm looking for. Give me 1 second here, folks. I'm just going to zoom in on the screen a little bit so you can see it better. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to just do that. And we're going to copy this to here. Yeah, it's about the same rate. Isn't that interesting? It's only at about 30 megabytes per second. Now we'll copy that back. Although, look at that, now it's going up. Now it's going up. It's starting to climb up. It's still, though, only running, so 500 megabytes per second is about half a gigabit. Sorry, 50 megabytes per second is about half a gigabit. But like I said, we've never really done file transfers on this before, so this has been interesting to me. Okay, so now that file is local to here. And what I'm going to do is delete it on the server, and then we're going to copy it back. Okay, so now it's gone. And now we're going to copy it back. Yeah, it's kind of maxing out at 50. Oh, wait a minute. Am I still on Wi-Fi? Hang on a second. That could be causing this. And you'll say, that's fast Wi-Fi, Lon. And it is fast Wi-Fi because we have Wi-Fi 6 down here on my partially dysfunctional UniFi system. And although usually when you're on Windows, it plugs in and does it. Let's see. Let's do a quick reset all here and just see. I can't see my screen because I'm sharing it with all of you. No, it's on the Wi-Fi. Okay, well that solves that problem. So bear with me, folks. I'm going to just take control of the screen again here, and we're going to rejigger the networking. Because the network adapter is plugged in, but it just doesn't seem to have recognized it. I wonder if this adapter is upside down. Hang on, folks. Okay, now we're on Ethernet. So let's try this again. And we're going to copy the file back over there now because I deleted it on the other end. So let's do that. Oops. Yeah, so now we're getting much better speeds, I think. Let's zoom in on that real quick so I can see it better. No, it's still going it's going a little bit faster, but not a lot. I think it's still on the Wi-Fi. Let me turn the Wi-Fi off completely. It's funny, I have the lower third from the guy from the MoCA when I interviewed him a while ago. Yeah, let me kill the Wi-Fi completely here. I think I can just do that. Ugh, it's such a pain. I can't get the display to like output on both. So bear with me for a minute here, folks. Okay, so we're going to reset this. And it says it's on Ethernet now, but sometimes the connection kind of holds, like the Explorer will use one connection versus the other. So I am going to completely turn off the Wi-Fi. And now we are definitely only on the Ethernet. So let's copy this file again. Yeah, much faster. Now it's going at like the speed you would expect, right? That's the 220 megabytes per second. That's what we should see. Okay, so let's where did that file go? So the problem is I can't see the screen. So let's copy it back off here. I'll just overwrite the file. All right, so now this is coming from the Mac to us here. Yeah, look at that. Same problem. It's creeping up though. But you saw it, like it fired it off at like super fast speeds. And I'm wondering if it's just the nature of how the Mac is connecting. So I've got to look into the packets, like the jumbo packet thing, because, here's something to think about. This Mac, the one that we're copying from, is on the network at 10 gigabits per second, but it's connecting to a computer that is running at 2.5. And I wonder, and I've encountered this before, I wonder if, because it's having to negotiate that, if that's an issue. And you wouldn't see that on the other end, right? Because we're not saturating the other side. So we have one more tool in the toolbox here to troubleshoot this. And that is, let me get it. Now, we reviewed this a little while ago. This is a QNAP switch. Now, every port on here is 2.5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go plug this in the equipment room over there, and I'm going to have that Mac and this adapter. Well, this adapter is going to be plugged. You get what I mean. We're going to plug everything into 2.5. And I think that's going to solve our, or at least give us some insight into this problem. So let me get this hooked up real quick. Because my network switch in there will negotiate to the highest speed. And because it's a 10 gig max switch, that's what we're getting. So let me plug this in real quick. And we will see if we can rectify this conundrum. And I think this might do it. Because everything will be at 2.5. And hopefully I've got an outlet free in here. And this is the one issue with this 2.5 stuff, is that I've had more trouble like this with different things than you can imagine. Okay, so we're going to plug this switch in, and we're not going to use its 10 gigs ports. We're going to use everything at 2.5. So let me find a couple of suitable cables here. So I am going to take this cable and plug it in here. And I'm going to take this cable and plug it in here. And then I'm going to interconnect it over here to this one. And so now we're going to be interconnected at 2.5 once this thing boots up. And hopefully it doesn't fall off the table here. And then, actually then I got to grab the Mac, which I just connected a few minutes ago. I'm going to take the Mac and we're going to plug that in. Right, because this is connecting that way. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to grab this one, and we're going to plug this in here. So now I've got this blue one is giving me the 2.5 to 2.5. Yeah, that should do it. And let's see what we get here once it comes back up. Because everything is 2.5 on that one. There we go. Okay. And this means I could probably bring my Mac back in to test all of this. And let's try this out. Okay, so now let's go back to that screen. And the big bottleneck here was copying from the Mac to the Windows machine. And let's see. Nope, still doing it. So that's not it. Isn't that crazy? In fact, it's probably slower now, right? And again, this is from one machine to the other. Now it's just like totally stalled. Huh. Let me go make sure nothing turned off in there. Oh, we just lost the connection. What the heck? Well, you know what's even weirder now? Is that this connection to the MoCA, there it goes. Let's make sure that stays stable. So it actually dropped the Ethernet connection, but it didn't do that before. It was just now. let's make sure that's connected securely there. Okay. Now let's try it again. Let's see what happened. Yeah, it actually dropped the connection. But I'm not sure what the cause of that was. All right, here we go now. And now it's about the same. But now everything is definitely connected at 2.5. That Mac can negotiate at 2.5, 10, or 1. Now it's better, right? But it's still not what we were seeing in the other direction. But it's interesting, right? Because it's, I got to reach out to them about this. Because it could very well be something configured on that Mac, because we haven't tested this. I mean, we saw it on 2 different adapters, but it could very well be a setting in Mac OS X, because when we do the iPerf test, it's fine. But yeah, it's hovering in like the 30 megabyte per second territory. And if we go the other direction, remember, we'll see it at 200. Okay, so I'm going to put that one to bed for a minute. And I'm going to try one other thing here. Let's grab the Mac again, this Mac, and run the disk speed test now that we are both on the same network. Let's see what we get doing that. Isn't troubleshooting fun? And this is, I'm just trying to gain a level of understanding is what I'm trying to do right now. But the Wi-Fi is definitely off. So that chip is secured there. I just want to find the other end of my docking station here so I can connect it up that way. Okay. All right, we are good. So now, let us do one more connection here. I'm going to go and connect to the Mac Mini. I turn Wi-Fi off to make sure we're totally off the grid here. Downloads. Just bear with me, folks. I am just going to get into the right folder here. Okay, so now the topology is we have everything on a 2.5 gig switch, including this MoCA adapter, the Mac over there, and I'm still recording. Okay, so let's go back to my screen here, and let's run this test again and see what we, yeah, wow. Yeah, I'm going to have to spend some more time trying to figure this out. The iPerf tests have been perfect, so that's what's so weird about this. It's like the real-world execution is not giving us the same results. So that's looking a little better now. But we should be seeing much better than this. So now, okay, so there's that. And just to show you that this is working, if I switch back to the iPerf test, and we run that. Yeah, we're going to the Mac over there. Oh, now it's running slower. Yeah, I totally messed everything up. So I'm going to go reset and just plug everything back in the way I found it, and I'm going to start over again because it's dropping the Ethernet connection again. And it could be that this MoCA adapter doesn't like that switch it's plugged into, which is very possible. So I've got more work to do on this. But I will say this. I don't think there's anything wrong with these things, as we saw earlier, and I will put this up so I can prove it to you. We did a very successful test a little bit earlier of the iPerf running from one to the other. And as you can see, we were getting 2.3 gigabits from client to server. Remember, this is not a simultaneous from client to server, right? And then we ran it again. I'll add the other one here. We ran it again in the other direction. This is server to client. And we were getting 2.5 on the other end. It wasn't until we started transferring files with it that it got wacky. So I've got to figure out what the heck was going on with this, and whether it's me or them or whatever. So, you know, there you go. The bandwidth is there. It works, but something in my configuration is fouling things up, and I've got to find a way to demo this. And as Ed says, it may not be working correctly because not enough people smashed the like button. That could be it. So I am confident in the hardware. I am not confident in me right now, so that's what I've got to figure out. But yeah, the Mac Mini's Wi-Fi is definitely off. And I think it might be a whole host of factors here. So I'm going to go find some more stuff to plug in. And what I might do is localize the wiring a bit and put that 2.5 gig switch on the desk, get another computer right next to me, just so I can have things nearby. Because there's a lot of variables right now that I'm playing with, and I think that might be having some issues there. So there we go. All right. But yeah, Wi-Fi has been disabled on everything. I'm positive about that. So we will figure it all out. So I'm going to spend a little bit more time poking around with this. I have to go to the post office, so let me go get my errands done here. And I will come back and finish this up. Probably won't live stream the rest of it. I'm just going to get, I need to like put together a little lab experiment that I can show in the video. So that's what I've got to focus on for the moment. So I'm going to do that. And I do have you know what I might do? I got one of those QNAP NAS boxes in. We looked at that last time. We haven't reviewed it yet. But it has 2.5 gig built into it. So that might be a good device to do a test run against. So yeah, let me figure this out, and we will figure out how all this works. However, I will say this, just to reiterate, because I want to be fair. These live streams are always a work in progress. So a lot of times when we're experimenting with these things like this, we run into issues that are not the fault of the product, but are actually my fault. So when I do a review and I say something is not performing correctly, I would say about 99% of the time, it's not me, it's them. In this instance, I'm not confident it's them. I think it's me. So that's why I don't want to leave you with the impression that these are not functional. I think these are very functional. We saw in the course of prior GoCoax products, prior MoCA products from competitors, all the MoCA products they use are really good. And the reason why they're all pretty good is that they're all running with the same guts. So, you know, it's just a matter of finding availability, price, and features that you're looking for. So these are fine. And it's just me of trying to work through this stuff. And when we do these live, as I just mentioned, all of the gotchas that I encounter are just happening as they happen. So that's how it's going to go. But I'm glad you all found this interesting. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I really like, I'm a big fan of MoCA. And the reason I'm a big fan, yeah, it looks like it just keeps dropping the connection. The reason I'm a big fan of MoCA is because it's now affordable. You know, so you can get, here, let me pull up the other. So you can get the lower cost MoCA devices. Yeah, now everything is messed up on my network here. I wonder if, what is going on with this thing? Oh, you know what? It has priorities. Let me unplug the thing. There we go. Yeah, so where'd it go? Yeah, so I've got a mess right now because I've been like moving cables around and it's just a mess. So we will be back and I will have a review and I will tell you one way or the other what the deal is with file transfers on MoCA. And I'm going to go do some research on this also because there could very well be some issues related to file transfers just being slower. So we'll see what happens. All right, so yeah, stick around everybody. I will have a review up probably my goal is to have this posted tomorrow night or Saturday, so be on the lookout for that. We have the review of the Samsung ARM-based low-cost laptop up there, so you can check that out. And yeah, we'll be back again before you know it. So stick around, everybody. I'll be back, and stay tuned for the full review when we're done. And I'll catch you on a little bit. Thanks for watching. Oh, wait, one more question here. Mohammed's wondering if he should upgrade to his... I don't think there's much of a reason to upgrade to the new NVIDIA Shield unless you want Atmos out of like Disney Plus or whatever, and you like the AI upscaling. Beyond that, it's the same deal. My 2015 that I've got in my bedroom is still more than adequate, so I would not rush out. And I have a suspicion that when the new Nintendo Switch comes out, so will the new NVIDIA Shield. That's my prediction, so good stuff. All right, everybody, I will be back with a review. I'm going to go rewire or fix all the wiring that I effed up in the closet over there. So I'll catch you in a little bit. Bye-bye.